It's now the middle of December. This is my first YouTube video for a month. I've had a bit of a hiatus. I'll explain why that is during the video. This morning I'm doing a fairly lumpy 20-mile circuit and I'm visiting 3 historic churches. I think they're well worth visiting and sharing with you. One of them's got the Cotswold Way footpath going right through the middle of it, right through its churchyard anyway. I'm climbing up onto Frostway from my hometown of Bath, and this is actually Morris Lane. It's a residential street, as you can see. I'll explain why I'm coming up this way at the top of the video. It's coming up. I'm climbing out of Bath up to Banner Town summit, and that's a long straight Roman road, pretty much heads all the way up to Lincoln from Bath. And the main Banner Down road is just over there, and I'm going to be joining that shortly via that road there actually. We're now approaching the summit of the modern day Banner Down road. You get an idea of how high up we are. That's Kingsdown over there, and that would be the A4 road down in the valley running up towards Box and Chippenham. Just behind it is the railway, Bath to Paddington line, and the summit of Banner Down is still a few hundred yards just around that corner. I'm now at the top of the first summit. This is Banner Down Hill, about 800 feet above Bath. Now I've just come in on the modern road, having joined it about a third of the way up from Morris Lane, and now it is really ruler straight for miles and miles, for all the way to Lincoln. There's a bit of a disagreement between historians the exact course of the Frostway out of Bath. Along here it's perfectly obvious, it's very straight and you can really see the agger of the road. That's the cross-sectional curved contour to aid drainage. Earlier historians thought the Frostway climbed up Foss Lane, appropriately named. There's lots of references to Frostway up there, Foss Cottage, Upper Foss Cottages, etc. It's a much steeper road out of Bath, and it is tarmacked about halfway up, and then it becomes gravel, unsurfaced, and then eventually it goes through some woods over there, and it's thought that it joined here. As you go through those roads, there's actually a Banner Down Common information board, and it clearly says on that this is the course of the Roman road, and I thought that was the case for quite a few years until I was researching a couple of years back. Later historians, including Ivan Margery, think the more likely course out of Bath was at Morris Lane, and then it joins the modern day Banner Down road. And although there's a few curves in that, you can actually see at the curves there's footpaths going straight up. So my heart says I'd like it to be that way, with all the Frostway references and the fact that it really is roller straight and very steep. But my head says it's probably more likely this way. I really don't know. What do you think? Just before we do leave here, the first time I actually came up Morris Lane, the way I've been today, up through that residential street, I was dressed in my Roman centurion costume. I was replicating a route on a Roman road from Bath up to Arlingham Crossing over to Forest of Dean. And this lady asked me what I was doing, and I sort of told her, and I sort of said some historians believe this is the original Roman road up Bath. She said, oh no, that's Foss Lane over there. I said, yeah, many people think that, but not everybody. Some historians think it's actually Morris Lane. She said, oh, I live here, I didn't even know that. So it just shows opinion is divided. Anyway, along here for a couple of miles, then as the road goes straight on, we're going to turn left, head over to the edge of the Cotswold Escarpment to the small village of Marshfield, and that'll be the first of today's ancient churches. About half a mile further along, this is a classic view of the Frostway. We're on this raised road, you can see the fields either side. You can clearly see the agger here, the curve from one field across the other, with this road being on the apex to allow drainage. And another example of it being a Roman road is using high ground, first of all for drainage, but I also believe it offered much greater protection from attack. The old military adage, whoever controls the high ground controls the battle. But it's very, very exposed up here on a day like today, very windy and nippy. You may see we're just about to leave Somerset and go into the county of Wiltshire. Here's where we leave the Fossway for today, so we've just come along that way. The road's about to split here. The modern day traffic goes where that white car's going, bending round to Ford and Cullen. But you can see straight on, that's the Fossway, signposted the shoe. Light vehicles only. Believe me, that's a bit roller coaster along there. But also there, not signposted, but there's a turning off to the left, very minor road. That's where we're heading. We're right on the southern ledge then of the Cotswold Escarpment. As I understand it, the Cotswolds are the visible part of a Jurassic outcrop that runs all the way from the Dorset coast near West Bay, diagonally across the country up to the North Sea near Scarborough. And the Cotswolds are a bit like the bit of the iceberg you can see, it's the bit poking up above. Most of that Jurassic outcrop is hidden beneath the surface. We've had quite a lot of rain recently. There's been a lot of surface water, and this is one place it tends to gather. Just ridden through that wasn't bad. It didn't even come up to my shoes. We were on the train coming back from Blackpool last week, and we saw, I think it's the River Trent up in Staffordshire, it burst its banks, really bad flooding, and also the Severn just north of Gloucester. More about that shortly. Oh God, just crossing the road look with a horse. Just coming into the Cotswold settlement of Marshfield. This is Sheepfair Lane, which then turns into Weir Lane. It's the old schoolhouse there, look. Now private residence. We're coming into the old High Street. This is the old village High Street. We've just come in from the left. And these days, there's a bypass. In fact, it's the A420 Chippenham to Bristol Road, which we got to join shortly for about a mile or so. You get an idea of what the old High Street used to be. And at this end is First World War Memorial. And then down there, through Marketplace, it's going to be St Mary's Church. I've never been there before actually, so today's the first. I understand it's open most days, so hopefully we'll get inside. Let's go and have a look and find out. Just at this no-through road, here we are, St Mary's Church at Marshfield. The porch is certainly open. Let's go and see if we can get inside. This is another one of those local villages I've been through so many times. At the end of a long bike ride, just want to get home. Never been up here. This is wonderful. Look at the view there. This lovely churchyard. Holly bush. Right, let's go and have a look inside. Ooh. As you come through, because it looks so well used and loved, I wasn't expecting a musty smell, but my first impression is it's very warm in here. There's some heating on in here, it hasn't got that cold feel. Bell tower at the back, some toilets in there. Straight into the aisle of the nave. Wooden ceiling, grand stone arches up either side, fairly basic pews. And as we approach the chancel, it's just got that darker, more ethereal feel to it. The pulpit, stone base, lovely wooden pulpit. Lovely wooden cast iron handrail, and as often happens, a step up and a carpet into the chancel, which instantly's got that grand chandelier and that lovely stained glass window bathing down that winter's light. It's getting on for midday, so it does feel very light in here, but not as light here as in the nave. Just as I go back out to the porch, there's the font there at the door, back of the church where it quite often is, and a lovely little Christmas scene there. As I often see these days, food banks at churches. I keep meaning to bring some food with me, look, one of those expensive camping meals. Talking of which, my next trip really will be a hot tent camp. I've got the front rack on the bike. I tend to need it more in the winter than the summer because obviously the hot tent, the stove and all the warm clothes, bigger sleeping bag just means I need 4 panniers. So next week I'm going to go to a Roman road high up on the Mendips and wild camp in a hot tent. Recently we were in our local Sainsbury's doing some shopping and we saw these curry packs and one of them was 80p korma curry. I said to Linda, let's just try it. If I get on with it I could take that camping. So we bought a chicken tikka as well. We tried the korma the other day and it's really nice actually, so I wanted to try it at home before I tried anything new miles from anywhere on a wild camp. So that's the plan next week. I'm going to be showing you one of these curry packs, ever so easy to use and really good value for money. Probably much nicer than one of those expensive camping foods. Even on a winter's day, this is just so lovely here. Bird song everywhere. I said at the introduction I've had a break from YouTube and I'm not fully sure I understand it, so it's going to be possibly difficult to explain it, but hey, I'll give it a go. Me and Linda didn't have a summer holiday this year. We decided we wanted to go to Blackpool Illuminations, but a couple of months later than we normally go because it was a Christmas market and it was absolutely fantastic. So leading up to that I went out, did a couple of bike rides, filmed it with the intention of making a video, and I just couldn't get my mojo. I just couldn't get around to editing it. And I also went through this phase, I think because it's leading up to the holiday as well, I was really getting into the holiday mode that I just wanted me and Linda, no filming anything like that. Rather than think I've got to film everything, I just wanted to experience it. So I went up with the intention to film and then just shelved it halfway through. I saw a meme the other day which I first of all thought was quite funny, and then the more I thought about it I thought it was really relevant. It was a mock-up of an old Beatles concert from the 60s, Shea Stadium or something like that. You know, you'd have wanted to be there and experienced it, wouldn't you? Most people who were probably aren't alive anymore. And the audience just had their mobile phones up filming it. And I thought at first that was quite funny, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought it just sort of reflects exactly what I was feeling. Sometimes I just want to experience things and not feel I've got to film it, and that just meme summed it up perfectly. I hope that makes sense. So hence the reason for no videos for about a month or so. The trip to Blackpool was absolutely fantastic. It was everything we hoped it would be and more. And part of the Christmas fair, right outside Blackpool Tower on the seafront, middle of the winter, gets dark about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and they had a couple of rides there. And one of them was this big tower, and you go up in these chairs, you know, on chains, and you're about 7,500 feet up in the air, start swinging around. And we were both fine. We went up in the dark until I suddenly looked down and I realised we're looking down on the clock tower, which I'm so used to looking up at, and I freaked slightly. And then I just thought, nah, just go with it. And you could see for miles, you could see right across the Pennines and all the areas sticking up. You could see the Golden Mile heading up towards Bispham. It's just wonderful. You're only up there for about 2 or 3 minutes, but yeah, it's an amazing experience. As I said, on the way back there was a lot of flooding, and it's just nice being on the train, just going through what almost felt a pontoon going through floods either side of you. Right, we're going to head off to our next church now, and it's at a village called Ashton, which, give you an idea of the geography, just behind this village is the modern bypass. It's the A420. It's quite a busy road from Chippenham to Bristol. You can hear the traffic in the distance, and we're going to have to join that for about a mile or so, and then we turn left off it and it sort of curves around to the A46, which is the Bath road up to the motorway and beyond. In fact, it goes all the way to Lincoln. It becomes a Fossway much further up in the Midlands. And we cut off that sort of corner by a bend. It's probably easier to show you a diagram on the map. That village called Ashton, I hadn't been there for years, and I suddenly realised there was this church I wanted to go to, and I went there recently and it was wonderful. And it means riding on a couple of busy roads, but the one we're about to ride on isn't too bad. And then after the village we can actually get on the busy motorway road, but most of that you can ride along either pavements or a grass track alongside the road, and then we drop down into a spectacular location for the third one. After about 3/4 of a mile on the A420, we're turning left down to Cold Ashton. And it's actually called Quiet Lane, which is very appropriate because it is nice and quiet after this. Just coming into the very small settlement of Cold Ashton. It really is sandwiched in between two busy roads. Wow, look at that view looking down towards Bath. So we're actually heading towards a very busy A46. It's what most of the traffic from Bath takes to the motorway and back. And then on our right hand side, we've just left the A420. We're going to have to ride a little bit of that A46 shortly, but nearly all of it can be either be pavemented or we can ride along a track. Really, it's not a nice road to ride on. This is a small commuter settlement then of Cold Ashton. Right in the middle of this very lovely small settlement is Holy Trinity Church. You can see it's preparing for Christmas carol service. Oh, that was last night. And I said at the front of the video, the Cotswold Way passes through here, so it comes through here and it literally does go right through the churchyard. That's where we're heading. This Cold Ashton, I hadn't been here for about 25, even 30 years, till a few weeks ago, just before I went to Blackpool. And I came out with the intention of making a video, and just halfway through, I just shelved the idea. I just wanted to enjoy the day. So I knew I was always going to come back with the camera when I'd got my mojo back. So today's the day. This really is a delightful spot, and that's the Cotswold Way there, ladies and gentlemen, literally passing right through the churchyard. We'll go and have a look at that later on. Meantime, I'm going to go in the church and show you around Holy Trinity, Cold Ashton, South Gloucestershire. As you approach the church, first thought is, oh, it's probably not open, and then you see that very welcome sign there, open, and it is. Quite a dark porch. The porch is actually very dark. I would suggest opening the inner door first, like that, before you close the outer. You may see it's very dark otherwise. Right, leave my hat there. This has got a much cooler feel to it. Oh, look at that lovely World War I memorial there. There's something outside I'll show you later on, right next to the Roll of Honour. Gosh, look at that, such a small place. And all deceased. That is quite a long list, isn't it? Bell Tower. Caution, this is an ancient church. Please be careful of our uneven floor. It's over 900 years there's been a church here, although it's mostly rebuilt in the 1500s. And there's services here 2 Sundays a month. The aisle, I would say, is semi-light. Look at that wonderful ornamental stonework above the pulpit. So it's a stone base, wooden carved oak pulpit, I think. And this so often happens in old churches, they used to have like a sound reflector. Quite often they're wood, but sometimes they're stone, and it was to reflect the sound of the sermon across. It says no admittance, so I will not go up there. The purpose of that was to reflect the sound, to stop it dissipating upwards into quite a high ceiling. So it projected the sound of the sermon out. I mean, nowadays they probably have a microphone and speakers. Oh look, there are speakers there. But that was the old-fashioned method. Same problem, different technological solutions. And then the usual step up into the chancel, and it's instantly cooler and more subtly lit. Gosh, look at that wonderful stained glass window. Just to recap on what I was saying a few videos back, churches normally facing from west to east. East being seen as more important. It's facing the sunrise, which symbolises rebirth and renewal and hope. And quite often the paintings or the stained glass windows in the east and the south sides are more uplifting. You can see with that one, look, the rays of sun coming down. There's two people, or quite often you'll get the coloured glass on the left hand aspect. Anything on the north or the west is seen to be more doom and gloom. It's not as favourable as the south and the east. And that's a fairly good example there. There. Look how bleak the back is compared to the front. Back down into the nave. Again, the alleyway from the nave is very much like the gangway of a ship heading towards the front of the vessel. And the word nave, which is this part of the church where the congregation would worship, comes from the Latin word for ship. If you think of navy, and so that's where navy comes from as well as this part of the church, the nave. Lovely Christmas tree there with baubles and tinsels. My wife's just made our one up actually, really nice. The house is looking very, very Christmassy and festive. Last week in Blackpool, we really wanted to sort of take in the Christmas buzz, and it really worked. We just both were on a complete high. Actually, there was so much to do there, days out, and we just really relished and embraced all the Christmas atmosphere. And we actually went for pantomime on the Saturday night. Actually, it was Aladdin, and we just really got into it. It was just such good fun. I'll just read a little bit from the page about the surroundings. So it says, Cold Ashton is a rural commuter village set in an area of outstanding natural beauty. That's just been renamed, hasn't it? AONB, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. On the southern edge of the Cotswold Escarpment, the Cotswold Way footpath passes through the churchyard of Holy Trinity Church and continues through most of the parish. The parish is made up of several scattered hamlets, principally Pennsylvania, going through that shortly, Nimrod, part of St Catherine's and Hamswell. Okay, let's go to the churchyard. So this is part of the Cotswold Way, literally walking through this churchyard. Just seen a squirrel run along and go up that tree. I wanted to show you this yew tree. It says, the golden yew was planted at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 2014 to commemorate all who served and all who died in the Great War, 1914 to 1918. We will remember them. I just wonder what that yew tree will look like in hundreds of years' time. None of us will be around to see it, but they literally do live for hundreds of years. And there's a yew tree at the final of today's churches, which is absolutely stunning. This is the Cotswold Way, leaving Holy Trinity Churchyard through another kissing gate and heading up that way. Looks like we've got the first sign of snowdrops there, possibly. What a lovely place. Holy Trinity Church, Cold Ashton, South Cross. If we head eastwards, we can back the way we've come. This is what I call the ancient churchyard. And you'll see there's almost like a transition into a new area. All these old graves, again facing eastwards. So the feet of the deceased are facing towards sunrise. It symbolises rebirth and renewal. As you pass between yew trees, there's this very obvious change. Much newer graves, so this is a much more recent garden. Heading up to the eastern boundary Treasured memories of George and Olive Purnell. You can see it's nearly all farmland around here. So we're now heading to St Mary the Virgin Church at Langridge, and that's where I'm going to have my lunch today. It's actually a spectacular location. I'll tell you a little bit of a funny story from last time. I went out on a Thursday. As I said, it was with the intention of making a video, and I'd already shelved it by the time I got here. But when I got there, I thought, you know, Thursday, if the church is open, and I read that it was, nobody's going to be there on a Thursday afternoon. There was a service going on, believe it or not. And as I locked my bike up and walked up the church path into the churchyard, there's a lady vicar. She smiled, she's very friendly, and I could just hear the organist warming up, and they were playing Nimrod by Elgar, which is one of my favourite pieces, if not the favourite piece of classical music, and it just evoked just so much emotion. I can't overlay it on this film, I'll get a copyright strike, but nearly everybody's going to be familiar with that tune. Even if you don't know the name of it, you will recognise it. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful coincidence. As I said, it's one of my favourite pieces of music. Another favourite classical album of mine is The Planets by Holst. And hey ho, just as I was leaving, the organist was playing, and this was during the service, that really rousing part of Jupiter. Again, you will be familiar with it. They quite often use it on rugby programmes or sports programmes. And at this church, I heard two of my favourite pieces of classical music being played on a church organ. Wonderful memory. Okay, time to leave. Back down to the village, turn right, about half a mile or so to the A46. That's the way we came in. Went up to the church and back, and this is where we'll be leaving. Just along here, you get some fantastic views of St Catherine's Valley. As we leave, we'll get some fantastic views facing southwards, looking down into St Catherine's Valley. Look at that. Stunning. A nice seat there. A couple of seats here. Definitely a picnic spot for in the spring, I think. And that's looking down into St Catherine's Valley. That big ridge along the top there, that's the Fossway. That's what I was on earlier on. So I rode up there, turned left off it, headed in this direction via Marshfield. Now I'm heading that way, bending round to the left. You can't see it, but I can definitely hear it. We're going to intersect with the motorway road, the A46. This must be a favourite spot with walkers on the Cotswold Way. I think the climb out of Bath up to here is quite steep from what I gather, so this must be a nice place to stop for refreshments and just take in the views. As you'll see from the GPS, so we're going to do a sharp left here, and that's this here as we leave the village. Head in the basic direction of Bath. Still lovely and peaceful here. It's not going to be for much longer. As you come around this bend through some trees, you can see it. That's what we're about to join, that main road there. And it's always very busy. Final 100 yards or so of nice quiet road. We join a really busy A road. So you can see how busy this is, and it's single carriageway, no overtaking places. It's not a road I want to ride on. So first we're going to go to the pavement there, and then ride along a muddy path, which is just about rideable on wide tyres. And see that big hill in the distance with that line of trees? That's what we're heading for. That's Lansdowne. That'll be our final summit before we drop into Bath. But between here and there is Langridge. Spectacular. This road is so busy, I waited for a gap in the traffic and just walked across here. So the M4 motorway from London to Bristol in South Wales is just a few miles up that way, which is why there's so much traffic on this single carriageway A road. It's either heading from Bath up to motorway or from the motorway down to Bath. This pavement is going to turn into a muddy track, can you see? And in a few hundred yards time it'll fizzle out and I'll cross over and I'll join the equivalent on that side. And just as his footpath fizzles out, you can cut across the road. There's the equivalent on the other side, which will take us most of the way to our turning. Again, I had to wait about 3 or 4 minutes and I walked my bike across when there was a gap in the traffic. The house I've just passed there is called 5 Mile View. There's wonderful views over to the right, dropping down off this road very, very steeply. It'll be on your left, won't it, on the screen? But that's what we're about to do. I'm about to plunge down from this road very, very steeply. Looking back the way we came, the Fossway, then over towards Lansdowne where we're heading. Just a few hundred yards more on this pavement alongside this really busy road before we then turn off right, drop down steeply. This on the left coming up would be the road from the village of St Catherine's. That's well worth an explore down there. So here, I've just got on the pavement, we're crossing this road from St Catherine's, which joins this A46. And this is the only section I'm going to have to ride on the main road. Literally from here, just past that sign there, there's a lay-by, and we can even use that. So I'm just waiting for a gap in the traffic, and I'll just shoot it along to where that blue car is. After this one, I think. Yeah, let's go for it. Literally just about 100 yards. Now we're into this lay-by, and there's our turning over there. And again, I'm going to just wait for a gap in the traffic before I leave this lay-by and take that turning off over there. Down to Tadwick. Okay, after this car, I think, yep, let's go. There's a gap on both sides. Here we go. 50 yards or so. Phew. Straight into a flood. This road is literally going to plunge off the side of this hill. This is the start of the plunge, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. It's very wet on the left hand side, and I've got my brakes on the right because just in case anything comes around the corner, farm traffic. Look at that. Right, I can let rip a little bit now. Look at that amazing view. It levels off about halfway down. This is the small hamlet of Tadwick. I actually did a New Year's Day ride along here a few years ago, and this house here, I saw daffodils out on New Year's Day. It's funny how memories come back, place sales I suppose. Amazing here. It's amazing to think that really busy road is on our left, literally doing the same as this, dropping down steeply off the escarpment. That's jam packed full of traffic, and today, this afternoon, It's just little old me on this road. That's where I've just come. That's the way I'm heading. And I think the GPS demonstrates it quite well. I'm just dropping down there to that junction, and then I'll turn in sharp right. In effect, I'm dropping down towards Bath. When I've lost nearly all of my altitude, I'm going to start gaining elevation sharply up towards Lansdowne. But part of the way up there will be Langridge. That's going to be St Mary the Virgin Church, that wonderful yew tree I want to show you, and my lunch. Here's our sharp right hand turn coming up by those few buildings there off to the right. First car, the entire descent. That was ironic. Had the road all to myself, literally till I got here, just about to turn off, and the car came from that direction. It's good enough, he pulled in, let me go by. So you can see Tadwick up that way, the way we've just come. And over the brow of the hill, that'd be the A46 going down. And we're now going to head up towards Langridge. Another memory's just come flooding back actually. About 25-30 years ago, an Audax organiser contacted me through the post. There's no internet in those days, and he said, "You're an organiser, could you help me out? I'm organising a 600-kilometre ride from the east side of the country, Saffron Walden I think, and the turn is going to be around about Bath. Would you be prepared to sort of suss out a control and man it overnight?" And I thought, yeah, great, because I like giving back and I like the organisation side of it. And so he gave me a rough idea where they were coming in. They were coming down from the Cotswolds. It's a very, very hilly ride. Cut long story short, I brought them down here, and then they turned down here in the middle of the night, you know, about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then they did this almighty climb that I'm just about to do up to Lansdowne. Because my reasoning was, look, I need somewhere out the way that's not going to disturb people, you know, the residents, neighbours, that sort of thing, all through the night. And, you know, Lansdowne Village Hall, I'll show you when we get up there, I'll finish the film there, was the perfect idea, I thought. I mean, from an organiser's point of view, it was fantastic. From a rider's point of view, coming down there at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then climbing up, oh, you should have seen the state of some of them. I do remember from that was the first rider that got in was a very young Steve Abraham, and even he looked shattered. He sounded spaced out because it was just such a hard ride. The other thing I remember from that ride is I thought, if they're coming down here in the dark, they may well miss this, because there was no GPS or anything in those days. You had to read route sheets, you know, and in the dark, you know, even with head torches, that's quite hard to do. Me and Linda went to Hawford's, I think. We bought a load of cheap LED lights. You know, you give us a bit of a float to do the ride, so I just bought these LED lights and had, you know, cable tied them to these poles here and had flashing red lights and sort of like indicated to look out for them. What we didn't realise is the batteries didn't last more than about 6 hours, so most of the people shot by here and didn't even see the lights. Some of them missed it entirely and had to backtrack. Others just sort of said they found it but they never saw the lights. So good intentions. That is a good idea on paper, but in practice it didn't work. We're just going to ride alongside the Lamb Brook here. So it's basically lots of field water coming off the hills here, and probably from springs as well. And it forms a little bit of a brook, a river called the Lamb, and then that flows down into Bath, and it joins the River Avon at Langridge. So I always refer to this as the Lamb Valley. I don't think that's the official name, but that's what I call it. So we're going to ride alongside the Lamb, climb out of the Lamb Valley, and about a third of the way up is Langridge and the church. Here's our road, just about to start climbing up steeply and gain some elevation, and there's the Lamb coming down. Not much more than a brook or stream flowing very fast, heading towards Langridge at Bath, joining River Avon by the old Bath rugby training ground. This is wonderful along here. It's one heck of a climb up onto Lansdowne, and this is just a 20-mile ride, stopping and starting and filming for me. You imagine this after about 190 miles, halfway on a 600-kilometre ride, which by all accounts was brutally hilly. You just hear running water everywhere flowing into the Lamb Brook. Already starting our ascent. You can see we're above the lamb already snaking its way there, and this is the way we're going. If I face forward the way we're going, you'll probably get an idea of what was coming our way. That's the big hill we've just dropped on, down through Tadwick to the Lamb, and then we're climbing up steeply. But this is Langridge, and this is St Mary Magdalene, Langridge Church. Look at the view. This is what about a historic country parish is all about. Those gates just invite you to walk through, don't they? Commonwealth War Grace. We will shut the gate, so it asks you to. The carol service, that'll be next Sunday, the Sunday before Christmas, 3 p.m. Oh, Christmas Day, there's Holy Communion. This is the point I got to last time. I saw a lady vicar there, she smiled, sort of said hello from a distance. And just as I came up the stairs, left my bike there, past these wonderful yew trees, I heard that music, Nimrod by Elgar. That is the organist just warming up. If you can imagine that here, it's just such an amazing experience. And you can hear what sounds like the wind through the trees, but it's not. It's the brook flowing down very fast there. Right, this time I'm hoping we can go inside. I didn't get in last time because of that service. So let's have a look. It doesn't look very promising, to be honest. Oh, yes it is, yeah. Can we? Can't we? Hat off. Yes. Oh, wow, wonderful. A light's just come on. Just activated a light. The light's just come on in the chancel. The nave is quite dark. Somehow this is actually quite nice. The nave is bathed in that just soft light out there from the spotlights. And as we walk forward, heading into the chancel, which conversely, it's normally a little bit darker there. It's the exact opposite. The nave is quite dark here. And the chancel is really brightly lit. That's what I was trying to describe earlier on. There's another one of those sound reflectors there. This must be one of the most amazing chancels I've ever been in. It really is. You feel like you're just going to walk into another world here. It's the opposite of what I normally find. Up the step, carpeted, towards the altar. Little vestry there, I think, the organ. Domed roof. The altar. Wow. It's almost like a church of two halves. It really is, because it's very curved here with that domed roof. So you walk back through the arch into the nave. Oh, everything's so wintry and Christmassy at the moment. Just wonderful. Stained glass there, again facing south. At the bell tower, it's a lovely stone font, wooden cover on it. Ropes up the bell tower. Again facing westward. Oh look, there's a crucifixion at the back. Again reiterating, it tends to be more doom and gloom down this end. That would be more hope. This is more doom and gloom. Wonderful bit of stained glass there, facing south. I don't understand enough about the imagery to interpret it, but I can make the basics. Crucifixion is doom, isn't it? That other one, the sunlight coming down, the baptism, that's pretty obvious. Wow, this is a really nice church. I don't think I have to switch the lights out here. They just automatically activate. Oh look, there's the sensor. And then you come out to this wonderful view. Again, legal business was done here when the church was its own legal entity. What sort of legal business, I'm not sure. But I think most people know in olden times you could claim sanctuary once you got to a church. So it was out of the scope of the common law. for many years. And then as we walk back, I can't see it from here. You can see the dip going over there for the stream. You can just hear it. And that's where I'm going to have my lunch. But I just want to show you this view, looking back the way we've come. This is looking eastwards. Again, all the graves facing eastwards. The feet would be facing eastward. Look at this yew tree. That is one heck of a tree, isn't it? You can see the very curved structure, the chancel. Almost like dovecot type roof. I've got to be really careful I don't walk on graves. Walking out this way, looking back the way we've come. This must be one of the most spectacular parish churches. This feels like you could have been in the middle of Yorkshire somewhere, probably no more than about 6 or 7 miles back from where I live. Can just about see up there some traffic going by. There's a couple of houses, there's just a gap in the trees, and that's the A46 taking its much more gradual drop down into Bath. We've literally just come down that way, almost like the ski slope version of it. As usual, I'll put all the links to the churches in the description below, but just briefly, this says this church is no more than 3 miles from the centre of Bath, and it's built by the Normans, yet many people from the area won't even know it's here. So this is hundreds of years old, and I would hazard a guess that those yew trees were planted around about the same time as this church was being built. So they probably also many hundreds of years old. Beautiful, beautiful place. Langridge is basically just a scattering of buildings, farm, commuters. I doubt if there's many people who are born and bred here to live here. Those 2 yew trees. That's why I wanted to share this place last, really, just to show you what an amazing location it is. And I'm always saying, just find what's on your doorstep. It's amazing what you take for granted. In the desire to, when I was younger, head off to the Alps or do these really long old axes, and just, no more than 3-4 miles from the centre of Bath. Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for lunch. I've just bagged myself that seat right there. Gone 2 p.m, so I guess it's time to start heading home. I leave the wonderful St Mary Magdalene Langridge Church. After leaving the Lambrook, it's quite steep coming up here. I was quite glad to get here and have some lunch, but now it just carries on climbing. You might just see the top of the hill in the distance. We're heading up and we'll come out opposite Lansdowne Racecourse, and that's where the village hall is. And that's where I managed to hire and then run that all night control on Peter's 600, so I'll finish the video off when we get there. Once I've we're about 2/3 of the way up now, and it's levelled off enough for me to be able to talk for a bit for the final kick. I'm on my lowest gear all the way up, and I'm on a triple chain set. And for those that like the technical side of cycling, the ratios are 46, 36, 26 tooth chain rings. And my rear set is 8 speed and it's 13 to 26. So that makes it a gear of 26 teeth on the front, 26 on the back. I've no idea what that is in numbers. I just know it's a very low gear and it just about gets me up here. There's one more kick to come in just before some houses, which I actually think is probably the hamlet of Langridge. So you can tell I'm quite away from the church. So that church was not local by any stretch of the imagination. All that's there really is a farm. Here we are, the final kick up here. Then it bends left, and just above it you'll see a house. That's pretty much the elevation of the summit. Anyway, camera off, effort required. Reach the summit. We're coming to the end of this lane before I join another busy road, and again I can avoid that by riding alongside it on a muddy path, much safer, until I turn off right down a much safer road. This is Langridge Village Hall. I'll pull in there, have a final chat with you. This is Langridge Village Hall. You can see there's a Langridge Wildlife Trail all around here. Incorporates the Cotswold Way. You can see the church there. So I've just come up and we are here. About to join this. So I'm going to go along there. And then just about there, the road drops down Lansdowne Lane into Western Village, and that's where I'll be heading home. This is the village hall I was telling you about that I hired back in whatever year it was. It's before the millennium, and Peter had asked me to organise a hall, and this one straight away came to mind. For the reason being is I just knew there was no neighbours to upset. You know, if cyclists are turning up early hours in the morning. Having just ridden up there now, I can understand why the cyclists were just so shattered. But it was a good memory, and I can see in the distance there, I don't know if you can just see the little spots, that's all the cars going along the A46 from Bath heading up towards the motorway. This is a bit of an interesting point here actually, because this is Lansdowne, that was Swainswick, that hill along there, and then the previous one in the far distance, past those trees, that's Bannerdown, that's the Fossway. And each one of these hills had an airport in the Second World War. When we turned left off the Fossway to head towards Marshfield, if you carried on there, on the Fossway, on the right hand side, would have been Cullerin Airfield. And where the A46 is, cars going along there was a Second World War airfield there called Charmy Down. And here, believe it or not, pretty much opposite here is Bath Racecourse. And it was a racecourse before the Second World War, but in the Second World War, that was closed for horse racing, and they utilised it as a runway. I don't think it's a major airport, but certainly planes could land there in the Second World War. You had 3 hills surrounding Bath, and each one had a Second World War military runway. Lansdowne Racecourse, Charmy Down, and Cullerin Airfield in the very far distance. Hope you enjoyed coming along on this little 20-mile circuit, exploring some wonderful places of interest. As I said, next week will be a wild camp. I won't be too specific about where I'm going, but it's going to be high up on an old Roman road, hot tenting. I'm going to take my axe and a foldable bow saw. So I'm going to try and get as much dry wood there as possible, and then cook this curry on the wood burner. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.